Howdy. Today I want to talk about trailers. Probably my favorite subject. What are the cheapest but still good RGN trailers you can buy? And before we go into that, I just wanted to do a quick update on my Hellcat. So finally, I have wheels at my home. Don't have to call Uber anymore, and don't have to walk for 3 kilometers to get to the Starbucks anymore. So I picked up the car today from the alarm shop. So they installed the immobilizer, so cannot start the car and cannot shift into drive unless you punch in the pin. And also I gave them that lockout plate for the neutral gear. They installed that, so very happy. So next thing, I just need to get some GPS trackers and hide them somewhere inside the car. Now about trailers. If you've been watching my videos for a long time, you probably know that my first trailer was a 55-ton Kaufman, and my second trailer was a 55-ton Fontaine drop side rail, and my third and last trailer was a Fontaine 60-ton flat deck. Non-alcoholic, by the way. Partake IPA, my favorite non-alcoholic beer. 10 calories, 0 carbs. Tastes amazing. Tastes like almost like real beer. So anyway, so Kaufman, of course, everything went up in price, and just actually recently I was watching an auction in Saskatchewan where they were selling some trailers, and I was just curious, and they had some step deck trailers, 10 years old, and the price went up pretty much all the way to like 30,000 Canadian for a 10-year-old step deck trailer. Like, it was 53 footer. It's just crazy. Well, a few years ago you could have bought it for, I don't know, 10,000 at an auction. So Fontaine prices went up and Kaufman prices went up, and these are the only two brands I'm personally familiar with. I heard some mixed things about XL trailers. Some people say they're bad. Somebody said they were changing their fleet of these trailers, switching to, Trail King or Talbot or something like that. But I knew a guy who had a 50-ton XL. He was with a Jeep and even a booster, and he was quite happy. He said everything worked fine. But then he got sick during COVID and decided, he got scared, and he sold everything. He sold a brand new truck. He bought, after watching my videos, he liked this T880 Kenworth that I had. He bought the same brand new truck, and he kept the trailer with the Jeep and booster, and then he sold everything. But so now, like, I got lucky with the truck and trailer actually, because prices went up, so I was able to sell everything at a profit, and that's how I was able to afford this apartment, even though I have a mortgage. But I had to come up with a huge down payment. And so now here I'm behind my computer, and so I open the Kaufman trailers, and I remember first time, because they advertise everywhere, right? So you buy direct from the manufacturer. And I remember first time I came to the website, I was really confused, because if you punch in kaufmantrailers.com, the first thing you see is some flimsy pickup truck style, funny looking trailers, like what pickup trucks are pulling, some horse trailers, and you have to go in the top. There's a bunch of tabs in here: utility, gooseneck trailers, flatbed, equipment trailers, and then on the right it says detachable gooseneck trailers, and that's what you want. And it might, seem a bit scary that these guys are doing these funny looking small trailers. Like, how can you trust them? Building an RGN where you're gonna be hauling like 50-55 ton of equipment. And what I learned when I was picking up this trailer is that they outsource, like they do themselves the small trailers, but they outsource the big ones. It's kind of what Apple does, right? When Apple builds computers, they come up, they get shipped under Apple name, but the manufacturer is actually somebody that Apple has a contract with. And so the same thing here. I forgot the name of the company, but it's basically when I showed up there to pick up the trailer, I couldn't find them. Like, where's Kaufman trailers? Because the sign had a totally different name. I was at the right place, but so actually I felt better knowing this, that these guys that build these trailers for them, they have a lot of experience and very nice guys. I was really happy with the trailer. But so now I remember my 55 ton was about 52,000 US. So now the same trailer, well, they have construction series. Now they have AG trailers, paver special, and commercial series. Commercial is like 35 ton with all the decks. But let's look at this. They have 35 ton, 50, 55 ton, and 55 ton is probably most popular because it's a bit more robust than a 50 ton. And the difference is that the 50 ton will come with 255 tires, which are no good in my opinion because they're too narrow. So if you get a 50, you can upgrade to 275 tire, but you have to pay extra for that. Whereas if you get, and that's basic 50 ton air ride standard trailer with 3 axles is 59.9, so 60,000 US. That's a 50 ton, right? And then have a deluxe version for $3,000 more, and then a regular 55 ton and a deluxe version. And so a regular 55 ton now is pretty much $64,000, 63.9, and the deluxe is 66.9, so almost $67,000. And the problem I still remember. So now if I click on details, one thing you have to look out for with these trailers is like especially XL, they like doing that, like GVWR, right? Let's say in this case it says 110,000 pounds rated in 12 feet span or greater. So 55 tons and 12 feet. So that's a real 55 ton trailer. But some companies, they will sell you, they call it 55 ton, but then if you look at the GVWR, it says 55 ton in 16 feet or half a deck. That's not really a real 55 ton. But the advantage of these trailers is that the less your rating is, the lighter is the trailer. It can be considerably lighter. So if you expect to haul light loads and you don't really, but you want to get a 55 ton for resale value, you might save a bunch of money and weight if you go for, let's say, 55 ton and 16 feet. But when I was doing this, I was afraid, and because I knew a local company in Ontario, they were building these trailers, and similar trailers. And when I asked them for specs, I saw that it said 55 ton and 16 or half a deck, And I told them, I said, hey, that's not a real 55 ton trailer, just something to be aware of, It's good to have a smaller span, 55 and 12, but it's heavier and pricier, right? And the second thing to look for is the tires. I would really recommend 275/70/22.5, or even like Eastern Canada here, quite often you will see, like 315, like much wider tires, especially in Quebec, because wider tires, many jurisdictions, they give you, when you get a permit for overweight or oversized load, many jurisdictions will go by how wide your tire is. You know, so it's better to have it wider. And the spacing, you know, my first trailer was 54 inches. The Fontaine was 60 inches, and it's definitely can save you, you know, length and weight if you go for 54 inches. But some jurisdictions will not give you as much weight. So basically, it depends where you operate. But knowing what I know now, I would go back, and my trailer was 26 in the well. That's another very important factor. Knowing what I know now, I would go and instead of 60 inches, I would do 54, but make the deck longer. Because nowadays 26, it's not enough. You know, I would go with 27 or 28. We're talking about heavy trailer, right? Where you plan to haul construction machinery, you know. And another important thing is the neck, or as Kaufman calls it here, tongue. It says hydraulic non-ground bearing gooseneck with 89 inches to 107 available swing clearances. And I remember when I was getting the first one, I wanted to get as long of a neck as possible, and I got 107. But then when they gave me a replacement trailer, because the first one was defective, right? They asked me to go with a shorter neck, and I think I went to like 105 or something, just slightly shorter. They say the shorter the neck, the stronger the trailer. But when I got Fontaine 55 ton, that one standard comes 101 inch. And in my experience, if you haul anything over 80,000 pounds and you only have 101, you won't be able to move the fifth wheel, you know, towards the front. Let's say you have a heavy axle, right? So you need a longer neck, otherwise you'll be overloading the truck. So when I had 101, I couldn't get the truck far enough away from the load, right? So, and then I bought this flip box or neck extension. It was 24 inches, no, 20. Basically, it was like 2 feet, right, like this. And I added that one, and so now my gooseneck was like 125 inches, and I just left it like that. I never bothered to flip it back. And for heavy loads, that was perfect. I'm especially with a 4-axle truck, right, when you have a pusher axle. And so that's important. And so also, probably the most important thing is the deck height, because you'll be losing loads if the loaded deck height is 24 inches, like this one. Like this standard trailer, deck height is 2 feet, and that's fully loaded. So what they mean by that is that when they measure it, they load 55 ton weight on the trailer, and then they measure it. So you can imagine that once they remove the 55 ton, right, because the trailer has this bow, right, it's gonna go up. So if you're hauling like 30,000 pounds or 40,000 pounds, you will not have 24 inches, you will have probably 26. So that's a useless trailer. I would never buy 24. I mean, that's actually my first Kaufman was 24 inches, and quite often it was more than that with a light load. But that's the standard. But so that's 63.9 thousand US, and then if you go to 66.9, which is deluxe, what they do here for this extra $3,000, they give you 22 inches deck height, and everything else is the same. So the only difference is this: you lose 2 inches. But that was my 60-ton trailer. When I had 60 ton, the last one, it was 22, and I was complaining every day because I was losing loads, you know, because you don't want to be over, let's say, 14.6 or, you know, 14.5 in many places. So the taller your trailer is, the less of a load you can take. Like, you know, some of those big wheel loaders can really can really stress you out when your deck is this high. So I would definitely go for 18 inches. And so that was Kaufman. And why they're so tall is because they use cheap steel, right? And that's why these trailers are still way cheaper than everything else on the market. So it went up by, what was it? So I paid 52,000 US, now it's almost 67, right? So it went up by 15 grand. Now Fontaine, but because they use cheap steel, they have to use a lot of it. That's why it's so tall, right? And that's why they charge you $3,000 to go from 24 inches to 22. Now, looking at Fontaine, I'm on track paper, trackpaper.com. I see a 2024 Fontaine Workhorse 55 LCC. And LCC means that it's 18 inches, which is perfect, you know. 18 inches loaded deck height. I'm looking at the description here. So it's 26 feet in the well. Like I said, I would definitely go for 27 or 28. 18 is perfect, but then the gooseneck, I don't see any connectors on the front. So for this trailer, you cannot even attach a flip box because there's no connectors I can see in the picture. So this probably is 101 inch, which is no good. Definitely need to be longer. So I would not buy this trailer. I would buy, because now they have a couple of different series, right? So they have Workhorse, and then I think they have Construction. And those are more money, but then at least you can attach a flip box. You can make your gooseneck longer. So this one, 2024 Fontaine, is $108,250. So almost 2 times more money than Kaufman. But it's definitely lighter. That's a big advantage. By the way, when I switched from Kaufman to Fontaine, that's the first thing I noticed. How I lost probably 3,000 pounds, you know. So 55-ton Fontaine, they use a better steel, so it's better steel is lighter, right? And I still remember that with 4 axles, because at first I just bought regular 55-ton, then I added the flip box. I think it was 23 inches, yeah. And then I added a flip axle. And so with the flip box and with the 4 axles, with my heavy Kenworth T880, I remember my empty weight was 53,000 pounds. And the truck was 27, so the trailer was 26 with 4 axles, and 1 axle was always 3,000 pounds. So the 3-axle trailer Fontaine 55-ton was 23K. Okay, so here they say it's 21.8. Might be, but usually it's 18 inches deck height, right? So mine was mine was a drop side drill. So usually by the way, one more thing to understand is that, yeah, a low deck is good, but the lower you go, the heavier your trailer will become, because they have to use thicker steel, right? Like it's always lighter to be this tall than this tall. Like the heaviest trailer you can buy is one of those, you know, crazy all metal deck where the side is like this, 6 or 8 inches, and it's all solid metal. So those are super heavy, but also they're very useful. I knew a guy that was he was moving all these big generators, you know. What they call these trailers, I forgot, but basically, yeah, it's very low sidewall, right? They can be 50-55 ton, but they're super heavy because it's just, there's no timbers, it's all metal, right? So those can be useful for tall loads. So like I said, I would rather skip on the distance between axles and just get 54 inches, but increase the length, and most importantly, lower the trailer. So if you do this, plus you get, neck extension, or just get a solid neck with at least, 115, 120 inches, the swing radius, you'll be good, And I was thinking about this, you know, thinking back, so how I progressed from a regular 55 ton to drop side rail Fontaine, and then I got a 60 ton. Then I bought the Jeep, the booster, all these. I had 2 flip boxes, right? Thinking back, now I probably would have kept. I wanted to change the truck because that Mack was no good. The front axle was 14,000 pounds. You could not get a heavy axle, and you need heavy axle for heavy load. So my Kenworth was the front was 20,000 pounds, right? So I could haul anything. It was a monster truck. And so I would still change from Mack to Kenworth, but I would have kept that 55 ton drop side rail with 4 axle and just stay there, stay at that level. So forget Western Canada, because that was the major reason why I switched, and then I got the Jeep, right? Because I need the Jeep to go to Western Canada where they don't recognize pusher axles on trucks, right? But it's always pretty much was one way trip. It was super difficult to find a load back. So it was always, you know, lots of, you know, empty miles. So knowing what I know now, I love that 55 ton Fontaine. It was super light, super strong, you know. I would just get that one with 54-inch axle spacing and 27 or 28 in the well. And the neck was 101 plus 23 with the flip box, which was perfect. So I wouldn't change much from that. But I would just basically, if you're by yourself, right? If you don't have... Sorry, if you're not a big company, right, and you don't have people with forklifts or cranes, I'm telling you, it becomes very expensive when you have to move all this, and you cannot do it by yourself. I remember when I was showing this, how I was hiring all these big wreckers and stuff, and I remember somebody said, "Hey, why don't you just rent a small excavator?" And that just tells me that these people never, who says that, they never tried to restack the trailer themselves, because you cannot do it by yourself, okay? I tried to do it a couple of times when I had access to an excavator. Remember in my old yard in Cambridge, a buddy of mine who hired me a couple of times to move his like a 330 Cat. A couple of times I asked him, I said, can I use your machine? I just need to do this, like remove the Jeep or put the Jeep back on. Man, that was like how many times I had to jump in and out from the excavator, to correct the chains or just move the Jeep a little bit. It's pretty much impossible. It's kind of like crane, right? When somebody operates a crane, you need a second guy to attach the straps, the chains, reposition maybe swing the machine, the load around, right? So the crane guy cannot jump in and out of the crane each time to do it himself. So the same story here. So what I'm trying to say is that if you're by yourself or you're just getting started, I would just say get a good truck, and of course it can be a used truck now because prices now are crazy, and get a 50 or 55 ton trailer with characteristics that I just described, long deck as low as possible, long neck, and of course good rating so that that it's not gonna crack. And I really like the drop side rail. It's not for every load, but for big loads, like some of those wheel loaders, they were perfect. Or if you think that you're gonna be doing lots of these generators or something super tall, you might want to get one of those super low trailers with a full metal floor. So I just basically stay away from Jeeps and boosters. That's what I'm trying to say. Just have one trailer that's ready to go. And by the way, at first when I got that 55 ton, at first I was always flipping that axle, thinking that they'll give me a ticket, right? Because of course the trailer was more than 53 feet with 4 axles. And then I just gave up. I kept it down all the time, but one of my axles was air ride. Oh, actually, that's also a pretty good feature where you can just flip a button or switch and the axle goes up and you don't have to tie it down. I had that on 55 tons. So when you empty, you just, you know, lift a couple of your axles and just have, you know, 2 or 3 axles on the ground, so to improve your fuel economy. And so in Ontario, because I was based in Ontario, right? So I had an annual permit, which allowed me to drive empty with 4 axles on the ground. And once I got a ticket because the cop said I didn't have any signs on, and I was running empty, and the guy gave me a ticket. He says, "You're supposed to have signs on." I said, "What? I don't have a load." He says, "Does not matter because you're over 75 feet long with 4 axles down and with the flip box down." So that's all I started doing. You know, when I was entering Ontario and I was driving empty, I would just put my sign on, oversized load, and put the 2 flags in the front, 2 flags in the back, and that's it. Nobody bothered me. And quite a few times I even went empty into US. So what I did, you know, I would come to the bridge at the last truck stop before the border. I would just remove all the signs, so that people didn't pay too much attention, right? And I would just go with 4 axles, like to a high OPA. I never had any issue. Never had anyone stop me and say, "Hey, what are you doing? Why are you so long?" You know, because I'm pretty sure, I remember now, I was 82 feet long with a Kenworth truck and 4 axle trailer, 82 feet from bumper to bumper, which of course is 7 feet over. So you're supposed to have a permit and oversized load, you know, load signs. But I'm telling you, when you empty, usually people don't bother you. So there you go. Those are my thoughts. I thought somebody can use this info when they're trying to decide on a trailer. And with these crazy prices, I would definitely go maybe for a slightly used trailer, like in mint condition, if you can find one. And now with the spring coming, there should be a lot of work for heavy haulers. So thanks for watching.